Not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna let y'all enjoy the view. Look at the houses. A lot of them are for sale. That was quick. Got her all wrapped up. Well, of course, it's popping. I'm going to pull over and add her as a recipient. That could be what the problem is. Add her as a recipient. That's the reason why. Let's go in. Four 1338. Let's do it like that. Is it Amber? Yeah. She's already in there. It still is not coming through. Pay my mortgage right quick. $1398.92.
But I had to drop my dog off for a groom, and I figured now's a good time to have this conversation. You've got me all, right out of getting woken up and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, let's have a conversation. So there's a lot going on. Obviously, we could talk about President Trump and Iran and stuff like that, but I don't want to. I don't want to talk about Eric Swalwell. I don't want to talk about Chuck Schumer. I don't want to talk about Hakeem Jeffries. I don't want to talk about any of them. What I do want to talk about is Zohran Mamdani in New York City and Kathy Hochul in New York in general. And I also want to talk about Virginia, the state of Virginia, not a person Virginia, but the state of Virginia, and a couple other things that are bugging the shit out of me that we need to discuss. So thank y'all for being here early. If you're watching this as a replay later, thanks for watching it later. But let's just jump into everything. So, couple things. Number one, yesterday was tax day. We will talk about that in a moment as well. But I want to start off here with Mamdani. So Mamdani, New York City, I don't know what they are thinking on a daily basis. I feel like it's been 100 days, okay? So 100 days in of Mamdani's reign of terror is what I'd like to call it. And he's making all kinds of changes to New York City, and none of them, as far as I can tell, are actual positive changes. That I don't live there, though, so maybe people who live there like him, but I don't think that's the case. But I want you guys to see exactly what Mamdani has said that he will be doing, okay? And this has to do with the grocery stores. And so I want you guys to hear the grocery stores. Wait, is that the right one? Yeah, this is on his page on X, okay? He says, last year I told New Yorkers we would open city-owned grocery stores to take on the affordability crisis. Today, we're delivering 5 stores, 1 in each borough, with the first opening next year. We're building a city where people can afford the basics, leave survival mode behind, and pursue their dreams. Here's to healthy families, thriving communities, and the promises kept. And I just want you to see his little video, which is, this one's very short. But then we're going to talk about the fact that he's fully retarded. So listen. Okay, this is his little video. Whatever. Just showing the milk and the eggs and the whatnot. Not really been great, but promises made, promises kept, blah, blah. Okay, here's the thing. According to Mamdani, it's going to cost $30 million for each grocery store. Okay, $30 million for each grocery store. That's taxpayer money, $30 million. Times 5, $150 million, right? Because 5 times 30 is 15, yeah. Grocery stores, just to build them. My question is, if you're so worried about food affordability for people, why not go to the grocery stores themselves and work a deal with the grocery stores themselves that are already there, already in existence, to help subsidize the cost of the food, right? Isn't that what SNAP and EBT basically are for people? It's a subsidy to help people get the food, right? If you're in New York City, how is spending $150 million for free groceries really going to help anybody? Because that $150 million, why not just give the money to the people? Let them go out and buy their own groceries from the grocery stores that are already in existence. It doesn't make sense to me, and maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I am fully ignorant on how this all works, but I don't see how this is a sustainable option, right? What I see is that it really costs maybe $2 to $3 million to build a grocery store. And then the food you put inside it, I guess, it's going to cost a couple $1 million as well. But this feels like more of a way for him to pocket money. Because why not just buy a grocery store that's already in existence? Why not just buy a building that's already in existence? They're building from the ground up and then filling it with all of the free stuff. Okay, well, here's the question. Is the free stuff going to be only, 5 or 6 things? Do you only get to choose from this one bread, this one meat, this one thing of milk, and then it feels like you're really in a poverty line at that point with the whole, Oliver Twist with the porch, can I have another? Or however it goes, right? So when I see Mamdani talking about how he's going to make these grocery stores, but the way he's going to do it is, let me show you guys how he's going to do it. So the way he's going to make these grocery stores, in theory, is this. And I want you to listen to this video. And then we're going to discuss, again, how incredibly retarded Zohran Mamdani is. Listen.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich.
God, he's stupid.
I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax...
Okay, look, because I didn't realize there's music in the background, I forgot. YouTube's gonna take this down, but so we'll stop it there. But basically what he's doing is he's taxing rich people who own property but don't live there full-time. Okay, he is taxing people who own property who don't live there full time.
That's a double tax.
Just those people, though. Just those people, not the ones who own the property and live there. Just the ones who have like a second property or whatever. The ones who own the penthouses, the whatnots. Do you know what that's going to do?
They're gonna sell.
It's going to make it so that those people sell. All right, they're going to want to get rid of those things. Now they can probably sell to somebody who wants to live there full time, then who won't be taxed the same. So the whole premise of Mamdani. Oh, that's why I didn't put makeup on, because I knew I was going to rub my face like this. The whole premise of Mamdani, it seems like to help New York, but it's really to help his pocket. It's to help his people, because think about it this way. Let's say he has five buildings, and somebody owns parts of those buildings, and they don't live there. So he goes, well, I'm going to tax you extra. And those people want to sell them, but then other people don't want to buy them. Watch this city buy them. And then what's he going to do? Or what happens when the city doesn't buy them, but one of his Islamic cronies or his Muslim cronies decides to buy it. And then you have a whole new swarm of people that come in and start taking over New York City the way Dearborn, Michigan has been taken over, the way numerous other places are being taken over. Minneapolis is being taken over. It's not the same. It's Somali takeover, but it's the same principle, right? For him to say that he's going to start taxing the ultra wealthy is again absolutely ridiculous. And it's something he as a mayor can't do. He keeps trying to tell these people these things. The only way it's going to work is if Hochul gets on board, because you can't property tax somebody unless he's going about it a different way and not doing it as a property tax. But I don't see how as a mayor you can tax only a certain type of person and not tax all of them. Because when we looked into it before, when he was talking about taxing the rich originally and taxing property tax on people who have like the penthouses and whatnot, it's you can't do that. You have to do the property tax across the board, which is when they talked about doing a 9.2, I believe, % property tax increase for everybody, for the same lower class, as he calls them, people who voted for him thinking that they were voting for a man who was going to just give them some free shit because they didn't have as much as everybody else. That is where the problem comes in. Being a democratic socialist or a Democrat socialist, whatever you want to call him, trying to take from the haves to give to the have-nots. But if the have-nots know that they're just going to be given the stuff, then they're never going to attempt to be the haves themselves. They will continuously be the have-nots, because then they don't have to do anything to get the same stuff that the haves have. That makes sense. I know that made sense. And Mamdani, he knows that the people that voted for him and the people that like him are the younger crowd who feel like, living in New York City is too expensive. Well, as a mayor, why don't you cut the cost of the things in New York City? You can do something like that. There's no reason why a slice of pizza in New York City should be $15. It does not make sense. Talk to the business owners. If they are having issues selling stuff, it's because they're paying too much for stuff. As a mayor, I would think you have more of an ability to lower the cost within your city before you have the ability to just tax random ass people, right? All right, so there's that. Then I saw this post from him. Kathy Hochul posted this a day ago. She goes, if you can afford a multi-million-dollar second home in New York City, you can afford to join its residents in supporting the greatest city in the world. Which is why I said the only way Mamdani can tax the ultra wealthy is if Hochul gets on board with it. And it's not only going to be in New York City. You have to realize if the governor is getting on board this, it will be across the state of New York. It's not just New York City that has money in it, in the high rises, the penthouses, the whatnot. It's all across the state. So then Zoran says we will be taxing the ultra wealthy and global elites. He has this whole post about how there's less for other people because so many billionaires have so much. And it goes back to that whole, and people get mad at me when I have this conversation, and I honestly don't care, because I believe that if you want something, fucking work for it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me to be part of this participation trophy generation where you feel like, well, if they have it, I should have it too. No, they have it because they worked for it. If you want it, get your ass out there and work for it too. It is not that difficult. Our country was not built on people, going, well, they have it, I want it, and then if he's gonna get it, can I have it? No, our country was built on people going out and literally breaking their backs to build this country, doing the hard things, working as much as humanly possible, taking care of families. And now it's, well, I don't want to do that, so I want you to take care of my family for me, give me free childcare. I don't want to have to go to work, so give me whatever government assistance there is. I don't want to have to do something, so just give me something somebody else has earned because I feel like I deserve it. Because why? I've never understood the why of the why you think you deserve something just because somebody else has something. I've never felt that way in my entire life. It's never made sense to me that people who feel that they are entitled to something just because somebody else happens to have it. Anyway, so there was that. So I saw all of that with Mamdani, and my very first thought was, I feel very bad for the people who live in New York City. Then I saw that the Trump administration caved. I'm not a fan of this one. So this came out about a day ago. The Trump administration has agreed to keep flying a rainbow pride flag at the Stonewall National Monument in New York. Remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, I don't know, time flies, about how they took down the pride flag, and Mamdani was pissed about it. He's like, no, that should be on here. But it's like the Stonewall National Monument, it's a federal building. It's not like just some piece of private land or private whatever where you can do whatever you want. It's literally a governmental kind of building. I don't know the right wording there. And so Zohran Mamdani says, he goes, this is a victory for the LGBTQ plus community and for our entire city. It's a reminder that New Yorkers won't let our history be rewritten. Our administration will keep working to ensure LGBTQ plus New Yorkers can live safely and with dignity in our city. How does flying a flag equals safety and dignity? I don't understand that. Just teach people not to be raging assholes and not to be bigots or not to be whatever, and then that's on each person. That I don't understand it. You want to be gay, be gay. Why do you need your own damn flag? I don't have a flag that says I'm a straight white female. Like, that's weird, right? Am I wrong there? Or why don't they have a flag for white people? Why don't they have a flag for straight people? Why aren't they flying a flag for black people? Why aren't they flying a flag for amputees or bald people or Mormons? Like, if we're just going to fly flags for everything, like, shouldn't we all have our own then? It's ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous to me. And maybe that's just me, but I don't like it personally. I don't agree with it. But this is the situation or the state of affairs that we live in, because there's this lady on a Carnival cruise, okay? She had 14 shots of tequila. And then she fell on the Carnival cruise ship and she hurt herself. She had, I think they said, severe injuries, including but not limited to a concussion, headaches, a possible traumatic brain injury, back injuries, tailbone injuries, bruising, and other injuries, because she was so drunk that she blacked out and hurt herself. She is suing Carnival, and they're paying her $300,000. Once again, this is that participation trophy mentality. She is blaming the bartender for continuing to give her drinks, as opposed to taking full responsibility for the fact that bitch knew she was drunk and still went and got more drinks. She walked herself and fell. It's not like the boat pushed her. It's not like the bartender came over and, swiped her legs out from underneath her. So why does she feel that she is entitled to money from Carnival because she made bad choices in her own life? We have got to get back to a time and place where personal responsibility is upheld and where people are told no, just no. If she walks up there and can't even ask for a shot because she's so incredibly drunk, she's slurring her speech, the bartender should say, no, And she can get all pissy and throw a tantrum and do whatever she wants to do, but the answer is no. And you know why? So that later on she can't try to sue Carnival because she herself drank too much. I doubt the bartender held her down and forced the shots down her throat. She did it to herself, and yet she's about to make money off of it. And you know what happens because Carnival's paying $300,000 to this dumb bimbo? Now when you want to go on a Carnival cruise, which I would never, we've done it, it's absolutely awful, your ticket prices are going to go up because they have to pay out for dumb broads like that who can't hold their liquor and instead want to sue the cruise company. Why is this what we do? Why did we go from a strong nation to a nation of just, I don't even know what word to use for what a lot of these people are. Maybe I should say liberals, but I don't know why we have fallen so far in the moral compass, the ethical compass, the common sense department, the self-responsibility, the whatever you want to call it. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't get it. That's like when the person, I think this happened a couple years ago, maybe it's longer, the person that broke into somebody's house and then fell through their ceiling and broke their leg, they sued the homeowner because they got hurt and they were paid out by the homeowner's insurance because they got hurt. And it's like, well, if you hadn't broken into the home, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. You broke into somebody else's house. You had stupid actions and you won stupid prizes, but then you also won money. Why is this how our society works, right? I feel like Zohran Mamdani is the epitome of do nothing and get everything. The man was nothing, and then suddenly he's the mayor of one of the most important cities in the entire country, right? And his whole entire basis of being a mayor is to try to destroy one of the most important cities in the entire country, to turn it into a socialist shithole that's full of people who don't want to work for anything but want to be handed everything, who, you know, aren't policed the way they used to be because he doesn't believe police should do anything. He spends more time crapping on the NYPD on social media than he does thanking them for anything. And it's all about, he says diversity, but it's not. It's all about wiping out what America was actually founded on. It's one of those things where it's hard for my brain to understand stuff like this because I'm not wired like that. I'm not wired to expect something from nothing. I'm not wired to believe that I'm owed anything, and I'm not wired to think that if I have a problem that everybody else should take care of it. That kind of mentality will never make sense to me, and rewarding that kind of mentality and trying to expand that mentality across our country is why our country is in the shape that it is. You know what I mean? Anyway, it is what it is. Somebody said I look tired. Well, that's not very nice, but I also have my makeup on and I haven't had my coffee, so maybe
So, long story short, I met a guy on the app like a week ago, and we've been like talking on the phone a couple days this week. We agreed to meet up today, Friday at 7:30. I didn't hear from him today, the day of the date. We talked last night for like 10 minutes, but I didn't hear from him today. And I'm an anxious attachment girly, so you know, I need some reassurance today of like, especially for a first date. We've never met in person before. We met online, so I was like, I need to know that we're still going. So I'm trying to get out of my own way. So I text him, even though I didn't want to. I text him, and I'm just like, hey, we're still going. Haven't talked to you today. So, you know, I want to make sure we're, you know, still on. And he's just, oh yeah, it's been a busy day. I can call you right now. And I was just like, oh no, that's good. Like, I really appreciate it. That was a green flag to me that he, you know, was like, oh no, it's just been busy. I can catch up with you right now. And so that was a green flag for me. But I ended up getting ready, and I was running a few minutes behind, and I just told him, you know, after I had sent that text, like, you know, I have a 40-minute drive, so I just wanted to make sure. And that's important, so hold on to that. So I get ready. I'm a few minutes late. 7:30 we were supposed to meet up. 7:35 was about my ETA. So I'm communicating the entire time. I want to be the communicator that I want. I want people to communicate with me a certain way, so I communicate with them that way. So
Right.
I'm communicating with him the whole time. He says he's there. I said, okay, I'm gonna be there in I'm pulling up in 5 minutes. I'm about to get off the highway. So then he tells me, oh, we have a 35-minute wait. We can go walk around the mall. Y'all are gonna be pissed off at me probably, but I did what I did. I end up just telling him like,
Damn,
well, at
go
first
hit
I
the
was just
fucking
like,
brakes,
I called him,
stupid
and
bitch.
I'm literally like pulling up into, if you're in the DMV area, I live in Baltimore County, we met up in Arundel Mills. So I'm pulling up, and it's a complicated parking situation, and I'm just like, why was there no reservation made? Oh, I've been here multiple times. I never had to make a reservation. It's Friday. They're busy. It's a restaurant. Like, he's just like super aloof, just like, it's no big deal, whatever. And I'm just like, I drove 40 minutes. It is the evening. I am not interested in walking around the mall. Like, while we wait another 40 minutes for our reservation. Like, and so I'm just like expressing my frustration to him and just saying like, like I feel a little silly right now because I just drove a really long way and like you didn't even make a reservation. And so he's just like, well just park, just get situated. Like, well, like it's not that, basically it's just saying like it's not that big of a deal. And I'm just
So this is an interesting one now. So she's late. Now, ETA 7:35. Date was at 7:30. That's if she's telling the truth, right? She did mention the parking situation. So I'm wondering, how long it would take her to park. But I'm not making an excuse for that. That's happened to me before in terms of going to a place normally and then when you show up there, it's kind of like a wait or whatever. So usually places have a bar, right? And I wouldn't have said, let's walk around the mall. I'll say, hey, I'm at the bar. Hey, they are running a little behind. I've even said stuff because when a woman's been late, I've even said, hey, they gave away our reservations because you were late. It's pretty packed tonight. That's what I would have said. And I've done that before too, because a woman has showed up late and I was like, hey, they gave away the reservations, even though I didn't have reservations. And when I walked in there, it was packed. You feel me? So that's what I would have said. You know what I mean? But it would have either been the bar or that. But she drove that far. Mostly everywhere you're at nowadays is usually like a 30, 40 minute drive when you're going somewhere to meet someone, especially when in bigger cities. She's in the DMV area. So I'm not excusing that, but let's see how he handles it. And yes, she said he was aloof, nonchalant, indifferent, but let's get back to it.
It's not that, basically it's just saying like it's not that big of a deal. And I'm just like, it kind of is though, because I just drove a really long way and I just like, I feel a little played right now. And I'm just like, you know what? Let me take a beat. I was like, I think I told him straight up, I'm not going to be a good date to you. I was like, I'm not really happy that I drove all this way and that like I have to wait 40 more minutes. And I was like, I'm just going to take that time and go back home. So I know y'all going to probably think I was snobby for that, but
right thing.
I'm sorry. We can blame it on me being hangry.
She looks like a BBW, so she probably was hangry.
Yeah.
But as I say all the time, as men, now being punctual is different, right? And it should have been just evened out somewhat, right? Because you were late. You weren't there on time. You weren't there 10 minutes. And women, you rarely have a woman that shows up on time, guys. So in terms of this, I would have been like, okay. You know what I mean? You can't deal with women like this. A lot of times, as men, we let women get away with so much stuff, and women think that they're doing you a favor a lot of times. That's why, bro, I'd be like, yo, you gotta earn it, man. You have to earn it. I'm not saying that he should have planned better, for sure. He should have been better at like, yo, hey, let's go to the bar real quick. Or he should have said something along those lines like, hey, you weren't here on time. They couldn't hold the table any longer. And that's that. It'll be a 30-minute wait because we weren't here on time. That's what I would have did. You know what I mean? But let's get back to it though. I'm just gonna have. That's how women are. They're like, yo, ain't nobody got time for that, man. Let her go, man. I was hungry.
Whatever, but I'm just like, I know myself, and like, we're already in the negatives. There's no reason for me to sit here and wait with this man knowing that I'm not going to give him a fair chance. I know myself. I said, let's just reschedule. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just really frustrated about this. So he ends up, I hadn't even parked at that point, so I turned right back down.
She didn't even park.
On the highway. And so he calls me and he's just like, well, I'll come to you. I'll drive 40 minutes to you, and where can we go in your area? So half of me is like, okay, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to make this even.
And see, men will do that. You think a woman will do stuff like that? Women don't typically, when they mess up, they're just like, okay, whatever.
But also, now I gotta come up with some plans, and we're still probably gonna have to fucking wait. In my, I live in the suburbs, but still, like, so I'm like, I recognize that I'm frustrated in the moment, and I'm just like, let me take a beat for a second. Let me just, like, I'm getting back on the highway. Let me just think for a second and figure out what my next plan is, because I'm fully dressed, makeup on, whatever. And I'm just like, let me take a beat for a second. And so, I'm thinking about just saying, you know what? He's saying that he wants to come off this way. I got a couple spots that I know that we can go to. Yeah. But like, I just need to take a minute to like cool off. So I'm just going to just be chill about it or whatever. Then he presses the issue, and it's like basically trying to chastise me for being upset. And that's when I was
of course.
I lost it, because I'm just like, he was basically like, oh, well, if I had made a reservation and the restaurant was busy, what would you have done?
My point exactly. And that's what he should have did. That's what he should have said. Like, yo, restaurant's busy. They said it's going to be a little wait. Bam. But he wasn't thinking. Women, man, you have to reassure women. You have to take charge in situations, and you can't let it look a certain way. And obviously this woman has little to no, she just wanted to go out and look pretty. She doesn't really care about this guy. I'm not talking about her looks, because looks is in the eye of the beholder, but bro was doing too much, and she showed up late. She didn't even park yet, which is insane to me. She didn't even park. So, and when you get someplace, which me, in my opinion, I'm thinking she probably was about 15 minutes out, right? Past that time, and parking takes you about
20 minutes,
depending on where you're at, parking garage, if it's a busy area, 5 to 10 minutes to park. So he's doing the most for her, and she's taking it, and she's loving it, and eating it up, man. Let's go. I would have just left it alone. I'd have been, because women don't like to be held accountable, especially when you say, hey, you were late. You weren't here on time. But buddy, if you ever come into a situation, that's what you tell her. Hey, they couldn't hold a reservation. This is a very strict place, so they gave our table to someone else. We'll just have to wait a few minutes.
And yeah, I was just like, are you being for real right now? If you made a reservation, we wouldn't have had to wait. If we had a reservation, that is the whole point of the reservation.
You're late.
And I was like, you're not being accountable. And now I'm actually getting mad. Like, I'm actually getting angry, because like, instead of just saying,
you can see why she's single.
We crossed wires. I didn't think there was a reservation needed. Let's try to figure something out. Like, instead of just leaving it at that, now you're trying to act like I'm wrong for being upset. And like, it's not that big of a fucking deal. I really was going to accept his alternative, right? Because I'm really, really trying to like.
She's doing him a favor. She's doing him a favor. And guys, we have a tendency when we watch these videos to talk about a woman's looks, right? And you guys see, I don't usually try to do that, but it's like when the mouth and the looks don't match, and even so with pretty women, you shouldn't even allow it. But really, when a woman's not that attractive, you can't just be popping off like this. And the fact that you were late. And you can see why a lot of women are single now because of foolishness like this, man. Goodness.
Like, be a better human and a better girly, but I consider myself a reasonable person for the most part, but I just could not fucking believe you're sitting here trying to act like, well, what's the big deal? We would have had to wait anyway. No, we wouldn't. That's not the point of the reservation. And so now I'm just like, listen, sir, I'm not trying to get into it with you about this. We could just plan something for another day at this point. Because again, I'm not gonna be a good date to you tonight. I'm really getting upset now. And so like he starts like laughing, like, well, what? I just don't get it. Like, and I said, so now it's funny to you. I went off the deep end. I'm like, so now it's funny to you. Now it's funny to you that I'm upset about this. So I was just like, you know what? You ain't got to worry about me, because now you're just not being accountable at this point, and now I'm really pissed off. Before, we could have just called it up as a miscommunication, cross wires, whatever. But now I'm pissed off because now you're like damn near making fun of the situation, or like acting like I have no reason to be mad. Well, we would have had to wait anyway. Like, no, take your L and just. I just got interrupted because he just called again. I'm not answering. But then like after that, when I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm actually good on this whole situation because I don't appreciate the fact that you're like.
Do you think that the Iranians would rather have their entire navy back or their means?
Oh, I think when we're talking through it.
Time for Lefties Losing It. You know, climate hysteria is so 2020, but no one has told this overgrown Greta Thunberg. This is Wisconsin's Democrat Secretary of State, Sarah Godlinski.
Republicans say we don't have climate change, but this is golf ball size hail in my front yard. This is not normal, and we can't keep ignoring our environment.
Yes, hail is a sure sign of catastrophic global warming. Well done, Sarah. Now let's go to the OG. Here is the real Greta Thunberg, who seems rather proud of herself. She's achieved the label of the second most dangerous anti-Semite in the world. Aim higher, love. Go for gold.
Apparently, recently, the Israeli government released a report where they identify me as the second most dangerous anti-Semite in the world, and the reason is for me using terms such as genocide, siege, and mass starvation to talk about the situation in Gaza. Anyway, the genocide continues.
Oh, maybe you'll win next year. Now to the woman who fled America to get away from Donald Trump, only to talk about the president 24/7. Here, Rosie O'Donnell talks about her support for Democrat deviant Eric Swalwell, who has just quit Congress and his campaign to be governor of California after serious allegations were leveled against him by multiple women. I wonder, does Rosie O'Donnell know him?
I know that guy. In the what kind of way? Like, spoke to him on the phone a couple times. Donated money to him, I believe. Talked about him in some public appearances years ago about how I believed in him and his cute little family and 2 kids, and standing up to all those people when he, berates them for their moralist behavior.
Rosie went on to say Swalwell broke her heart with his moralless behaviour, but then listen to this absolutely crazy misandrist nonsense she spews, essentially absolving Swalwell of all responsibility.
You know the conclusion I've come to? Men suck.
We've been to that.
Men suck. The way that they are physiologically, they can't sort of control their sexual urges.
But you,
this is what I find.
All men suck, Rosie? Really? All men can't control their sexual urges? Seek help and fast, please. Now, this next dude definitely does suck. He's unfunny, miserable, and, like Rosie O'Donnell, afflicted with the most virulent form of Trump derangement syndrome.
Can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and make Donald Trump the new Ayatollah. We let him go run Iran, and then we lock him out when he tries to come back. Think about it. I, for one, think of a better way for Trump to deliver on his promise to make Iran a living hell than to become their leader.
Can you believe that guy's earning millions of dollars to deliver that? ABC must hate their audience and must also hate their shareholders. Let's stay with the ABC's disdain for their audience and have a look at The View. Here is Joy Behar claiming that if Jesus proclaimed himself as the Messiah, well, that makes him a narcissist. Get ready to lose brain cells, lots of them.
Yeah, but Jesus himself did not run around saying, I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah.
Jesus
This
kind of
guy,
did say he was
you're
the
supposed to
Messiah.
have a little bit of...
That's exactly what Jesus said. I am the Messiah.
You know what? No, he did not.
It's
Jesus
been a minute
was more
since I
Here's the
asked
thing.
this.
The Pope's got him. He's got God eyes.
Jesus said, I knew Jesus.
Jesus was not narcissistic like this guy.
And
How
when
you
you
know?
are the Messiah, it's not narcissism to say it.
Yes, it is.
When you are the Messiah.
And good news, Don Lemon is doubling down on his claim that he can be president. Please run, Don, please.
Yes, why not? Why not?
Why not?
You know
I'm not saying that I'm going to do it, but why not? My parents taught me growing up that I could be anything that I wanted.
Absolutely.
And so if Donald Trump can be president, why can't I be president?
Yeah.
So I might do
Like
it.
your mama said.
I think that I would love to see Don Lemon in a debate. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Sherry,
Yeah,
I'd love to see him in a debate too. I really would, but probably for entirely different reasons to you. Now, the media continue to disgrace themselves with activism that is becoming increasingly dumb. Another word for it, it's dumb. And sadly, we are seeing it not just from the usual suspects, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, you know, the echo chamber. Here we have the Wall Street Journal, a reporter from the Wall Street Journal treating what was a clear joke seriously. So serious that she followed it up in the White House press briefing.
There was an interview that Dr. Mehmet Oz did recently where he described the president's views on his own diet. He said that he argued that diet soda is good for him because it kills grass. And if you pour it onto the grass, the grass is killed and it therefore must kill cancer cells. I'm wondering if you can, was this sort of an accurate description of how the president views?
Look, as we all know in this room, I think you know the president has a very good sense of humor. It's one of his most underreported characteristics, I would say. I have heard him tell this joke before. I think the Wall Street Journal should get a better sense of humor.
I mean, what can you say? A serious question about an obvious joke, trying to suggest that the president thinks that drinking Diet Coke stops cancer. It's almost as good as that drinking bleach hoax. Remember that? Now, let's have a look at the interview that the journalist there refers to and see if perhaps there's a reason she took the banter seriously. This is what she was talking about. This is Dr. Oz on Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast, Triggered.
Your dad argues that diet soda is good for him because it kills grass. It's poured on grass, so therefore it must kill cancer cells inside the body. So he'll try to, please. He's got a Fanta on the desk, and I say, are you kidding me? So he starts to like sheepishly grin. He goes, you know, this stuff's good for me. It kills cancer cells. And then he tells me it's fresh squeezed. So how bad could it be for you?
You know what? Can't wait for the next serious journalist to ask whether it's accurate that President Trump believes Fanta is freshly squeezed juice. I mean, really. Joining me now is Newsweek senior editor-at-large Josh Hammer. Josh, the American media, they have not exactly covered themselves in glory in recent weeks, particularly in their coverage of the war against the Iranian regime.
Well, Rita, that exchange we just saw there between Donald Trump Jr. and Dr. Mehmet Oz is actually really, really funny. I mean, I'm not sure if the audience here heard. I was actually audibly laughing to myself during that exchange. Frankly, it gets to one of Donald Trump's, as Karen Levin accurately said, to one of his unsung but nonetheless simultaneously most important political attributes. In fact, if you were to ask me what are some of the leading traits that have really led Donald Trump to be not just a great American president, but a man who I think will be ultimately remembered as one of the 5 to 10 most transformative American presidents of all time, I think his sense of humor is just about at the top of the list. Other things that come to mind are his unique ability to make his political opponents lose their everlasting minds, which he has a skill of on that front probably more than any other American leader in my lifetime. He has an instinctive knack for, let's call it, the art of the 80-20 issue to make his political opponents defend the utterly indefensible. But really, more than anything else, honestly, his sense of humor is something that just resonates. This is who he is. He is the Fifth Avenue populist. He is the guy who is making every man Joe Sixpack out there in flyover country in Kansas and Oklahoma, etc. He's making that guy laugh, and that is a huge reason for his political success. Obviously, the American media does not share in that sense of humor because they are just a bunch of smarmy, insular idiots. You said dumb, and yes, it's dumb, it's stupid, it's low IQ, it's just utterly gibberish. And it's sad that the Wall Street Journal is getting in on the act. You know, their editorial board is oftentimes quite sensible. I don't agree with them on everything, but they're oftentimes quite sensible. Unfortunately, the Wall Street Journal's news section is essentially indistinguishable in large part from the news section of any other generic left-of-center newspaper, the New York Times and so forth there. So it's unfortunate that is the case, but Caroline Leavitt handling with aplomb, as she has handled many of these situations with aplomb.
Now, earlier today, the Senate defeated another war powers resolution aimed at limiting President Trump's ability to use further military force in Iran against Iran. This is the fourth time, Josh, the Democrats have forced a vote on this issue. This time it was defeated. At 47 to 52 votes, but they are vowing to try again, Josh.
So these war powers resolutions, Rita, come up every time a president of either party engages in some sort of offensive military hostilities. One thing that comes immediately to mind here is that these war powers resolutions are here, there, and everywhere actually unconstitutional. So the War Powers Resolution originated during the Richard Nixon presidency towards the end of the Vietnam War. Congress is trying to end Richard Nixon's his continuation of the war effort. The war effort obviously had been going on for a long time prior to that under LBJ and Kennedy there. But the key thing here, Rita, is that Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution makes the president the commander-in-chief. And the commander-in-chief clause has as the ability in it the ability to wage war. Congress has an important check on the president and his war-making ability. It's called the power of the purse. Congress can defund the president anytime he wants to there. Congress does not have the ability to say, you, president, must wind down your initiation of hostilities there. They can't say that. They can defund the thing. They control the power of the purse. But you can't just say that, oh, after 50, 60 days, this has to end there. So the whole thing is just a totally unconstitutional ruse, and nonetheless, it's failed again there. So it's not just unconstitutional. It's also just failure theater. It's frankly, it's failure theater from Chuck Schumer and all the rest of the utterly hapless Senate Democrats. So they look utterly stupid. They're trying to pass an unconstitutional measure, and they can't even get that right there. Ultimately, this conflict is obviously going to end. Donald Trump is telling Maria Bartiromo it might actually end sooner rather than later. I'm a little skeptical of that, to be honest with you. There was simultaneously a Washington Post report indicating that upwards of possibly 10,000 additional troops might be heading towards the Middle East there. That doesn't really sound like it winding down, frankly, to my ears. So, as usual with Trump, there is a lot of mixed information, which is kind of the entire method that he deploys there. There's very much a method to the madness here, and he's really just trying to throw the opposition off guard, which he's done time and time again. That's the reason that he was able to take out Ali Khamenei in the first place, is that the Iranians were totally off guard. I personally predict, Rita, that they'll be caught off guard again, and that Operation Epic Fury is going to resume sooner rather than later. But of course, we shall see. One thing that we can definitely say is that the Senate Democrats are not going to be able to forcibly wind down this war effort with their hapless, feckless, toothless, and utterly unconstitutional, stupid, dumb war powers resolution.
Now let's talk about the Eric Swalwell scandal. It was revealed that his tawdry antics were a well-known open secret among Democrat ranks, and there are a number of Democrat politicians now desperately trying to distance themselves from this saga, claiming they had no idea about Swalwell and all these allegations. And among them is a Californian Congressman, Ted Lieu.
I had no idea until I read the San Francisco Chronicle article when it was published, and I believe Representative Swalwell did the right thing by resigning.
Josh, are you buying that?
Yep.
No, I definitely do not. In fact, Nancy Pelosi, who's kind of the queen doyen of the San Francisco Democratic establishment, she was asked the exact same question this past weekend on C-SPAN here in the U.S. there, and she gave the same answer. Nope, never heard of that. Nancy Pelosi is actually infamous in American political circles for having a literal binder full of opposition research on her political opponents. I guarantee you that Nancy Pelosi, Ted Lieu, all these guys, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Eric Swalwell is from that same Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, broader milieu. All of them. Nancy Pelosi, Newsom, Kamala Harris, Ro Khanna. I guarantee you they all knew about this. By the way, I came across a very interesting article. I was doing a little bit of research, actually, about the extent to which the media was complicit in the Eric Swalwell cover-up. The short answer is that they were deeply complicit. I came across a fascinating article from CNN over at CNN.com back in November 2017. The date here is relevant because this is around the time of the explosive Harvey Weinstein story and just kind of the general apex, the crescendo of the Me Too movement here in the United States. So in November 2017, buried roughly 9 to 10 paragraphs deep into the CNN.com article, CNN makes reference to how over a dozen sources confided to CNN about a certain California congressman who was infamous for sexually harassing his colleagues. So they knew. Oh, yeah, they definitely knew there. And they were all complicit, Rita. They were all complicit. The media, the California Democrat establishment. So the obvious question then arises, why now? Why finally now that all these women are coming forward to tell their story? To me, the answer is actually quite obvious. So the California gubernatorial primary is coming up on June 2nd. California has this somewhat unique system that they refer to as a so-called jungle primary, which means that both the Democrats and the Republicans essentially all compete, and the top two vote getters, no matter what their partisan stripe, then go at it head-to-head, mano-a-mano this November. Well, if you look at the polls, actually, in a lot of these polls, the top two polling candidates, shockingly, have actually been the two Republicans. That's been Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. So Democrats, I think, are getting quite scared, frankly, in the lead-up to this primary. Eric Swalwell was, in many polls, most probably the leading Democratic figure there. They want to take him out. They want to take him out there for the most cynical, self-serving reasons imaginable, which is to keep the Sacramento governor's mansion in blue hands to further corrupt the most beautiful physical state in the union. It's politics at its absolute worst. But frankly, Rita, it couldn't happen to a deeper scumbag, because Eric Swalwell is nothing if not a scumbag. The whole Fang scandal there. This guy should have got out of Congress years ago. So frankly, his comeuppance is, if anything, long overdue.
I said precisely the same thing yesterday. This looks like a hit job from the inside. The Democrats decided it was time. He was becoming a liability rather than an asset, and now they shore up their vote in the governor's race in California. But you're right, he's also so deserving of this. Just a tawdry figure, and not just his own conduct, but the allegations that he threw, not just at President Trump, but at Kavanaugh during those hearings. Really, this guy is without shame. Now, let's go to New York City, where Socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani is implementing more socialist policies.
We will use government to respond to rising prices and unaffordable groceries. The city will subsidize a core set of staples. A private operator will run the store, but they answer to the standards that the city will set. These standards include requirements that at our stores, bread will be cheaper, eggs will be cheaper, grocery shopping will no longer be an unsolvable equation.
Josh, what could possibly go wrong? Just cheaper bread and eggs, no downside there, is there?
Yeah, if only someone had thought, Rita, at some point in human history, just give out free stuff. Have the government manage it. What could possibly go wrong? Oh yeah, literally everywhere it's been tried, there had been bread lines. People had been poverty stricken. They have been utterly impoverished there. You can see their rib cages because they are so famished. I mean, this is what the Soviet Union tried. This is what communist Cuba tried. I've actually been to communist Cuba. I've seen it. The people there, it's a public health disaster and waiting there. I think back to this famous image. It was towards the end of communism back in the 1980s there, and Mikhail Gorbachev, the final leader of the Soviet Union, came to the United States. This is during, again, the end of the Soviet Union there. It's when things are starting to get a little brighter with the United States there. And Gorbachev famously visited a supermarket in Houston, Texas, actually, of all places there. And the American photographers caught this amazing image of Gorbachev staring at the produce line and just being awestruck by the sheer variety of the food that was available to Americans. Because guess what? That's what the market does. I mean, that's what free markets, that's what capitalism does here. So the notion that the government can run a supermarket and your bread will be cheaper and supply will be higher there. This has been tried before. It'll be one thing if it's never been tried, but it's been tried time and time again by would-be petty tyrants and socialists and Marxists everywhere. And it fails every single darn time. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they're doing one of these stores in all 5 of the boroughs in New York City there. It's essentially a publicity stunt, Rita. This is probably not...
It is. That's
God
nothing.
Willing, I don't know. Yeah, it's one store. It's not going to become a thing, so to speak. So he's doing it as something of a PR coup, trying to essentially shore up his base among the DSA, among the Democratic Socialists of America. The interesting thing that I noticed about Mamdani in New York City, though, is that he has increasing unpopularity ratings, even from Black and Hispanic New Yorkers, even from his actual base there. So this guy is not heading in a particularly good political direction. Hold his poli aside, his actual popularity ratings are going into the toilet on a fairly rapid basis there. So good luck, buddy, if you think that government-run grocery stores are going to turn around your political fortunes, because, frankly, I don't think that's going to help a whole lot.
Now, before you go, I want to get your take on what Tulsi Gabbard did earlier in the week. She released a trove of declassified documents showing the flimsy work, the biased evidence that the former intelligence community inspector general used to push the 2019 impeachment of President Trump. The director of national intelligence revealed deep state actors within the intelligence community concocted a false narrative that was used by Congress to usurp the will of the American people and impeach the duly elected president of the United States. And Fox News reported today that criminal referrals have now been sent to the Justice Department for the whistleblower and the former intelligence community inspector general who notified Congress of these allegations. Josh, the director of national intelligence has said the politicization of the whistleblower process has been an example of the deep state playbook on how to weaponize the intelligence community.
Yeah, look, Rita, if I'm being candid here, I've had my criticisms of Tulsi Gabbard. I don't agree with her stance on Iran. I don't agree with some of the personnel decisions that she made. She, of course, hired Joe Kent, who resigned recently, and in a fit of rage, a fit of anti-Semitic, anti-American rage at that there. So I've had my criticisms, frankly, of Tulsi Gabbard, but this is Tulsi at her absolute best. She is absolutely at her best when it comes to the deep state, when it comes to the weaponization of the law enforcement apparatus there. She has been a voice of reason, rationality, and sanity when it comes to Russiagate in particular, one of the great scandals in American history for which there is still no accountability to this day. Just last summer, she was up there with the CIA director offering various new evidence there. The problem with a lot of this, Rita, is that a lot of these allegations, while meritorious, run into a very basic problem, which of course is known as the statute of limitations there. So unfortunately, a lot of these crimes happen prior to the statute of limitations there. So putting on my lawyer cap for a second, I'm actually skeptical. Unfortunately, I wish we're not the case, but I'm skeptical that there's going to be legal justice, as is so often the case, Rita. The best that many of us can probably realistically hope for is some sort of just comeuppance and political accountability when it comes to the political arena, which basically just means the ballot box this November.
Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thank you, Rita.